Hello, Internet. I'm Matt.
And I'm Monster Punter.
And this is the Parallax Scrolling Podcast, where we give you our perspective on video games and the news that affects them. Is it terrifying that I'm getting good at that? I just belt that intro out like nothing.
I don't know. Maybe we should change it.
Oh, jeez.
I mean,
don't put too much work on me. All right.
I mean, because we talk about more than just news.
Well, I said video games and the news that affects them.
Yeah.
So we talk video games.
Talk about our lives a little bit too.
No one cares. Speaking of our lives, most of the chaos is over for now.
For now.
For now. we're not out of the woods just yet, but we're at a point where we can record and breathe a little easier, so we're gonna do that. So, you have not had a whole lot of time for video games, but what have you played this week when you've had time?
I've just been playing a little bit more Soul Hackers, trying to get through that story. When you're working 80 to 100 hours in the last couple weeks each week, it doesn't leave much time for anything, let alone video games. So I don't really have much to say on that front. I haven't made any progress. Doesn't even have
time to use the bathroom.
Oh, I get to use the bathroom.
If they let him.
I just have to change my clothes every time.
Say what? Like, what do you work for? Amazon? What's going on? So you've been working on Soul Hackers too. How far do you think you are?
I think I'm a good ways through. I'm in my mid 40s for levels, and usually games end at around.
Me too.
Around, yeah, right. They're talking about the end. I know who the big bad is now for sure.
Cool.
And they've agreed to meet somewhere, and probably not really the end, but getting close enough.
The end is not the end. Is not the end. Is not the end. Is not the end. Is not the end.
Pretty much.
Not the end.
Well, at the because every game now has the boss. Then you fight his final form, and then you fight his final form's final form, and then you fight his final form's final form, with his sister.
I was gonna say older brother, but you got it even better, I think. Well, speaking of finishing things, I actually got to finish Control. Since the last time we got to actually record, I finished Control, and what a trip! That story is so awesome. I blown away by how they handled it, and it's really fun. Combat just needed so much work, though, for my personal taste.
So you're saying they needed a remedy?
I'm saying they needed better control.
Oh, oh man, that was a pretty good comeback.
Yeah, there you go. But that was not the only game I managed to finish, because that was done about 10 days ago.
Oh yeah, 10 days ago.
Okay, it's been a while since we recorded. Shut up.
Well, yeah, when I'm working that much, there's not really that opportunities to record.
Well, yeah, and I'm only able to put in when I say these days, I'm only able to put in 2-3 hours a day tops if I'm lucky with these games. So keeping that in mind, I started and I finished Valkyrie Elysium.
I
actually ended up I gotten 2 of the endings.
The bad and the worst ending?
No, I think I got the best ending, the quote unquote best ending, and I got what I feel is the best ending.
Oh, well then you don't need to go any further, because I do plan to play that.
Oh no, and I'm not going to spoil the story at all, but it's quite interesting how everything plays out. Ultimately, though, up until that final chapter, the game feels incomplete. It feels like a rush job.
Well, let's not be too hard on it. It is a second tier release by Square Enix.
Well, right, and I don't say that to be oh, I hate this game, it's garbage due to. I love the game. The game's fantastic. I'm gonna play it again when I have, because I want to find. I think there's a couple more endings I can get. I want to see if I can get them, but I'm also still like, as much as I enjoy games, I'm still critical of them. And I really felt that there were so many points in this game. I'm like, this isn't the same series at all.
No, it's not.
It's definitely like a whole rewrite. The one thing this game made me want the most is it made me want to go back and play the first one.
Yeah, I could understand that.
Yeah. But combat's good for the most part. I had a couple of issues where, like, after a while you learn skills so that your Einherjar can jump in the middle of attacks or at the end of attacks or guards or whatever. And then they attack for like a couple seconds and they, it's not considered their summon. They're just out for a little bit.
Everything I've read and heard about the game, everybody says the combat is easily the strong point of the game.
Yeah.
The story is not as well developed as
I would agree with that. I did enjoy the story, but I would say that the big thing was like with combat, the big rule for the combat is you can only have 2 of your Einherjar out at a time. The problem with that is if you set yourself up for all your auto commands for your Einherjar, if all those things happen at once, you're constantly popping in and out your Einherjar, that it's a detriment to even summon. Because I will summon somebody, and then 2 things will happen that will require like 2 different characters to pop out, and my summon character gets booted after like 10 seconds of fighting. And that sucks.
I guess you just have to set it up, your combos very carefully.
Which is a little hard to do when some of the fights are really hectic.
Yeah,
especially late game.
But going back to the story for a moment, I think we've mentioned this before, but as far as like the original Valkyrie profile, that was a different game when it came out. Nothing played or had that kind of idea at the time, and I thought it was really cool. But easily, the Valkyrie Profile 2 on PlayStation 2
was far better.
It was far better. The story was very, very good.
And the one thing Elysium has that 2 definitely has is there is some interaction between the Einherjar with each other. It's a little bit more freeform this time around, but I liked that concept. I liked the fact that, we're fighting beside each other. We might as well have conversations and actually like kind of work together.
They did that, in 2. They did do that.
Yeah. By the way, so this is not a spoiler for you. You will recall, I can't remember how many episodes ago now, when we first started talking about this game, I said something. I said that if Arngrim was not in this game, I was going to riot. Guess what, baby? I'm going to riot! I'm going to riot! Oh my gosh! He's not in. Technically, your Egon, the first guy you get, because you already have him, he's your greatsword user. He's your big Arngrim character. Egon. Not the Ghostbuster.
I was about to say, I'd rather have him.
Actually, I kind of like this Egon too, but that reminds me, I don't know if you've seen the gameplay yet. I've seen the gameplay of the new Ghostbusters game, the 4v1.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that looks so cool.
I'll have to give it a try when it comes out.
I think that'd be a lot of fun for us to do.
Give it a try.
Yeah. Anyways, so that my quick synopsis of Valkyrie Elysium. We talked a little bit about this before we even finished it, or I even finished it. We said that this was a B tier game. I would say that's pretty accurate. It is a B for a game. That said, it's still good. I recommend it. I think if you are a fan of the series, don't expect the same thing. Expect a new experience, but enjoy it. So
yeah, other than that, Soul Hackers 2, as far as I can tell you right now, the story is the stronger point of the game. The visuals, one of the weaker points of the game. The combat is fine. The flair is not there as much as, say a Persona 5. Persona 5 is way better when it comes to that. And to a certain degree, a lot of the demons that you collect feel more like stat sticks than anything else. In older games, you got your new sword. It was just stronger than the other one. It's just a stat. That's how I view stat sticks anyway.
Yeah.
But there's not enough interaction with them, and in my opinion.
That's kind of sad.
But it's okay. It's okay. Overall, it's still a good game, worth playing. Definitely check it out.
I also got to play a game today and a couple days ago. I started recording more videos for my channel. I actually put out something on that on Twitter. I had a game I started playing and like this sucks. I'm not gonna like record this, or it's not that the game's bad, but it was just not a good recording session. And then the second game I recorded was fantastic, and I forgot to hit the record button, so that sucked. Then I tried to play a third game, and that had the same problem as the first game. It just wasn't recordable. Like, it wasn't good material. But I started up a new game. I'm not going to go over it because I know some people who listen to the podcast actually watch my channel. So I don't want to spoil stuff there. But I started it. I actually finished it today. I originally got it because I thought it was a horror game. And it is. It's a Metroid game also. And I didn't know that. I swear. I didn't know it. I didn't know it was a Metroid. Not a Metroidvania because there's no stats involved, but it's a Metroid game, and I didn't know that. So you can't hold that one against me.
I will forever hold it against you.
I got it because I thought it was a 2D horror platformer. That's why I got it. Because I thought it looked cool, and I thought it would be a good thing for my channel, a little boost. But it turned out to be a Metroid. I'm like, oh, okay. So this is a great game, though. I loved it. There's a spoiler for that for anybody who starts watching. I love the game. But yeah. So it's been a wild time, and it's as I will say this: the game actually has to deal with death to a point. So, speaking of things that are dead, rest in peace, G4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, not even a year, right?
Yeah. Got hopped on my Segway there and just slowly rolled into that one, didn't I?
That's fine. I'm catching catching your segues a bit more.
Don't catch my Segway. I need to go places. So get in my way. Seriously, though, if we ever take off, we got to get Segways. That would be so much fun. Anyways, G4 has ended. And it didn't just end. It ended abruptly. And it ended in an email. And I know several of the employees found out that they lost their jobs through a tweet from somebody else who had received the email. And this is the email here. Team, as you know, G4 was reintroduced last year to tap into the popularity of gaming. We invested to create the new G4 as an online and TV destination for fans to be entertained, be inspired, and connect with gaming content. Over the past several months, we worked hard to generate that interest in G4, but viewership is low, and the network has not achieved sustainable financial results. This is certainly not what we hoped for, and as a result, we have made the very difficult decision to discontinue G4's operations effective immediately. I know this is disappointing news, and I'm disappointed too. I want to thank you and everyone on the G4 team for the hard work and commitment to the network. Our human resources team is reaching out to you to provide you with support, discuss other opportunities that may be available, and answer any questions you may have. Thank you all again for your hard work for G4. So, what a load. I mean, here's the thing, and somebody else spoke about this yesterday, I think, and they brought up a very good point. Everything the G4 is or was already exists in hundreds of thousands of YouTube channels and Twitch streams and all these different sources for video game news and entertainment. I mean, we're technically one, right?
Yeah, and we're all competing.
Right, and we're all competing. So what made G4 think that they were going to be able to just, hey, we're G4, and because we slapped G4 on the label, we're gonna be just fine.
Well,
Ding.
I can't get into their head,
right?
But if I was to think about it for a little bit, these are probably the reasons that they thought they had a chance, or at least maybe a couple of them. One, I mean, the G4 name was known by not by the younger generations anymore, but the some of the older generations.
The millennials mostly.
Yeah, millennials. The premise that they had was a big budget, big production. Your typical YouTube setup is just some dudes talking in a room, kind of like what we're doing here. Very low
budget.
We're
in a room?
Yeah, we're actually, yeah, believe it or not, we're in a room. You know, it's not a very big room, but it's a room.
It's a room.
But they're low budget, low production, and not that there's anything wrong with that. They have big budget, people who have been trained to be in front of cameras, among other things. Hopefully to be a lot more entertaining, provide you more value if you do watch them.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot to do with why they thought they had a chance. And
plus, I think they also felt like if they slapped the G4 name on whatever they were putting out, that was going to win the day.
Well, in all honesty, yeah, I think to a certain degree having the G4 name would help them. Some people know about it, right?
Yeah.
It can't hurt them.
How well did you know G4?
I knew of it from when it was actually on TV.
Right. Did you ever watch it?
Rarely.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think we always got it out in our area, but we did. We've watched it rarely. I never was really impressed with it personally. So, like this news, the news that it came back and the news that it's gone away has not fazed me at all. But it is something I think affects the industry, and I think it's something to talk about.
So, like the thing that really that hurts it too is the fact that it is bigger budget. The fact that it does do and take a lot more to run that as a business. They're running it to make a profit. People like us just sitting in a room talking about games because we like video games enough.
Yeah.
I spent some money on the equipment that we're using right now, and for me, this is more like a passion project than anything else. If I make money at this, okay, cool, but honestly, that's not the intention of this.
Right. And that's, I think, the case with a lot of people. Not everybody. Some people really want to just make their video game channels to make that money. But I think there are still people that do it to enjoy it.
But they're a business. G4 was operating as a business. They're there to make money, and they weren't able to. So they're not able to just keep putting out videos because, to be honest with you, this is more of a hobby than anything else for me right now. Yeah. And when people have hobbies, there's no expectation to make money on it. There's no expectation other than deriving enjoyment from what the activity is.
Yeah, I can see that. Two big things though that come away from this that shock me to a degree when I first heard about them. First one being that they still had 2 years left on their contract, from what I understand. So they can't fulfill their contract. That's breach of contract. That's an issue. Secondly, when they went and restarted up everything, they brought back all the old hosts to do stuff on the channel. But they didn't bring back all the old hosts. They only brought back all the old male hosts. So I thought that was interesting when I heard that news. I was like, what?
Well, I can't speak for all the women who are on G4, and I don't know G4 enough, but
right.
Wasn't Olivia Munn one of the people on G4? I think she got her start there, did she not?
I think so. I'm afraid to look it up.
If I'm not mistaken, she never really played video games in the first place and didn't really want to be a part of it, long term anyway. So why would you bring back somebody like that? I might be wrong about who I'm talking about, but I just remember there being a story about somebody like that at some point.
Well, right, but like for a lot of people, the one thing they're picking up on is they brought back all the 40-something male hosts, but the only female visuals, so to say, was with like 20-somethings. And so it's like, okay, that's kind of, when you look at it like that, that's kind of creepy. I get that. I don't know if that was the intention, but I get that. I get the perception is important. So, but yeah, I think the big thing for me, the biggest one, was the fact that they ended their contract 2 years too soon.
So as far as like having all those people collecting payment, G4 or the parent company that owns G4, Comcast, okay, they may be able to get ultimately something back from Comcast, but let's just take it out of Comcast's hands for a moment and just talk about bankruptcy in general. I am by no means a bankruptcy lawyer, but I did learn a thing or two about it, enough to be dangerous. And so when someone declares bankruptcy, all of your creditors line up, and some of the ones that first get paid out are your secured creditors, and then it kind of goes from there. These people, they have contracts, and they may eventually get something out of it, but it's going to be pennies on the dollar. There's assuming that there's any money really there to be had. So,
right,
it's tough to say.
Well, I'm almost wondering, like, because I know that there's some dealing with G4 and Comcast. I almost wonder if it's Comcast that they made the contract with. So they're technically part of Comcast, but they're not the full. They're still their own deal. So it makes me wonder. I guess it's going to be interesting to see what the fallout is on this, but it's just kind of a shame. Mainly because there was a lot of great talent that went to the new G4, and they don't get to continue being that talent. Hopefully, and I sincerely wish that every single one of them is able to land on their feet, recover, and in fact, I hope they all excel past this tough time. So
exactly. But thinking about it, I mean, they were providing something that's provided by other places that are higher budget still, even though on YouTube. Think about IGN, for instance, or GameSpot, Kotaku. They do videos and things like that, not unlike what G4 was doing. So they had a lot to compete with, and obviously it didn't seem like they have a very long timeline to get the ship righted, so to speak. And so here we are. Somebody made a business decision, and then it affects people's lives, and it always sucks.
So what's I want to try and change up the format just a little bit. So I did a story. I would like you to do a story, because
I
know
don't want to talk about a story so much as just a little bit about me at the moment.
I
was, I got this nice PC, and I have a graphics card in it. It's not a very powerful graphics card for now, but I do have one. And I still play my consoles overwhelmingly more than I do my PC. And I just want to talk about that a little bit and explain why that's still the case. I only speak for myself here, and leave your comments in below about what you might be doing or how you play your games. But for me, I sit at a computer all day. And when I'm sitting at this computer, I'm working and I work and I work and I work. When you're working 10, 12, 14 hours every day, the last thing I want to do right away is just stay in the same chair I've been in the whole time and start to play my PC. The idea of being able to go on my couch and being able to relax and just play some games from my couch is very appealing to me. The other reason is I like to buy my games physically as much as possible so that I feel like I actually own them. And you just can't really do that on PC anymore. It's all digital. Having said that, if I ever decide to play a massively multiplayer online game again, like Final Fantasy XIV, for instance, I will be playing that on PC. It's just a better experience on PC. Easier to type to. I mean, that you can do all this stuff with your PS5, obviously, if you hook up a keyboard and things like that. But from your couch, doing all that is not very easy compared to a desk in the typical computer situation. And when I played PC way more than I played console, because there was several years where I did. There were several years where my Xbox 360 was like, holy cow, I actually still own that thing. And in my PS3 was the same way at the time. It's just, those are the type of the games I was playing. I was playing Final Fantasy 11. I was playing World of Warcraft, things like that. Stuff that was more suited for a PC. And eventually, if I ever get back to a game like that, like I said, that's what I'll do. What about you?
I spend a lot of my time when I'm able on my computer. Reason being that my console set up away from everything, and I spend most, when I'm able to spend time with that, it's late at night when I don't want to be in the room anymore. But I do spend a lot of time on my computer, either because of work reasons or because I'm trying to record something, or I need a de-stressor and the TV where my console is being occupied, So it's a different situation, I think. Like, I'm still at my computer pretty much all day, but I'm also where my computer's at. I'm actually at a setup where I don't have to be directly in my computer chair the entire time. Like, I have a wireless mouse, so I'm able to move further away from the computer, and I can sit in something comfortable, and I can, work from there. But there's something enjoyable about playing my games that I have on my PC that I can't always pull off with a console game. And I think we're getting to a point now where PCs are getting as adaptive as consoles for players, and consoles are getting as strong as PCs, if not stronger, for players. So I think we're getting to a point where it really shouldn't matter what you're playing on. Just the fact that you're playing should be enough.
See, my way I come at it is simply like this. The consoles are not going to be as strong as PCs anytime soon, or really ever, at least in the foreseeable future, considering the consoles basically use PC tech. And with PCs, it costs a lot more, to have a good PC, or even an equivalent PC to a console in a lot of situations. However, you can crank up your power targets, you can buy bigger chips, you can do all that stuff. So because of all those things, PCs will always be stronger than consoles, because in a console you're in a constrained environment, power limited. They don't, you want to have everything in a nice smaller box. Right. You don't have to do that for a PC. But for me, you're trying to say that your PC and your console, it doesn't really matter where you play. It does, in the fact that what you're trying to get out of it. For me, like I said, I don't want to be at my desk all day, every day. And so the idea of sitting at my desk playing my PC more just doesn't really appeal to me. And granted, you can hook up a controller to your PC for certain games and things like that, but it is what it is. And if you guys hear a certain squeak in the background, I apologize. That's my cat.
Yeah, actually, why don't we take like a brief 10-second, like, you guys won't notice it. We're going to take a brief 10-second break here in the recording just so we can get the cat to chill. And we're back. Caller, what's your smooth jazz request?
So as much as I want to say, I mean, obviously game wherever you want to game, but the PC master race kind of thing always kind of gets to me, because there's more things to consider than just how much money you have and how much money you can dump into a system, and that's I don't know how else to put it other than game with where you like.
Absolutely. I think that's the big takeaway, no matter what, is game where you want. And if somebody tells you can't game that way, well, you don't have to talk to that person anymore.
And I'm just explaining why I play more on console than PC nowadays.
Right. No, and I enjoy being able to sit in a comfy chair and play a game. I don't always get that opportunity. Like I said, I when I get to play my console, I play late at night. My dogs, who are massive, kick me out of the chair and force me to sit on the floor so that they can snuggle behind me. So I'm sitting on a hard floor trying to play these video games for hours. Like, ugh.
And for some people, it just comes down to how you control the game. Some people like mouse and keyboard. Some people might like Sony's new PS5 DualSense Edge controller.
I was going to say, it's the Edge.
And I guess that launches early next year.
Yeah.
I only want to talk about this very briefly in the way that...
Is that a Sagoo?
It's
That was a Sagoo, folks. That was a Sagoo. All right, here we go. Hop on this little Sagoo and let's go.
I thought that was a pretty good one.
It was actually really good. It took me a second. I was like, wait a minute. Did he just Sagoo us? I think he did.
So they announced it. And don't get me wrong, the controller looks great. I wish you could swap out the D-pad like you can for the Xbox Elite controller.
Yeah.
Because if you could actually swap out the D-pad, I might actually consider buying this controller. Because the D-pad is the one thing I do absolutely hate about the controller.
How often do you use the D-pad on the PS5 controller, though?
Don't. But for any game that's like old school 2D or any game that's like a side scroller,
Yeah.
I think the D-pad is way better, especially for like the beat 'em ups. That's why I buy my beat 'em ups on the Xbox primarily, because the D-pad on those controllers is way better than the PlayStation one.
Yeah, I mean, I have some problems with response sometimes with certain games. Like, there's a small delay in it recognizing, oh, you're using the D-pad. I'm sorry.
But all things considered, this controller, as nice as it is, and Sony says that there's supposed to be some sort of heads-up display or light-up display on it, $200 for this controller.
I was gonna jokingly say it's only $340.
$200, and I realize that this is supposed to be a premium product, and not very many people are supposed to have it, but it's still $20 more than the Xbox Elite controller. Still,
yeah.
I mean, people will say, "Oh yeah, it has haptics and things like that." Okay, fine, I'll grant you that, but I know for a fact when I buy my, granted we'll have to see when the Sony one comes out, so I'm speaking from partially a place of ignorance here, but, when you could actually swap out your D-pad. There's several different D-pads. I know I'm not going to be able to do it with this controller. And there's other swappable parts, too, with the Xbox Elite controller, especially the analog sticks and things like that.
Yeah, even the thumb cap itself can be separately replaced.
Yeah. So I feel like in an environment where Sony's bringing this out, is it really competitive? I guess so overall, but it's still a lot. $200, that's half the price of the PlayStation digital system.
Yeah.
Half the price.
It is ridiculous. I mean, it does feel like sometimes good old Jim Ryan is just trying to irritate the consumer base. And I figure it's, appropriate that we start calling him Jim Tryin', because he's trying my patience.
I mean, but then again, these are supposed to be a premium product. It's supposed to be targeted to people who have money. And I understand the business model where you sell a cheap console and everything else you make money on. And I'm sure they're making probably $100 a controller. But it still feels bad.
Yeah, no, it doesn't feel proper. Like, why make something that complicated, or I don't know if complicated is the word I want to use, but like, you can go in and constantly change out the pieces and you can tweak it the way you want. Why make a controller so adaptive for people? It requires a ton of money. Most of your consumer base isn't going to be able to afford that controller. That might actually give people an unfair advantage in like competitive multiplayer.
Well, that's what it's primarily for.
Well, right. So it's another pay to win scheme to a point, but it's, why do we want to keep trying to divide the gaming community? Like, why can't we work on a controller just out the gate that does these things, comes with the system, can be replaced with another controller if need be, but allow the gaming community to unite and thrive and not struggle against each other.
Let me tell you here, as far as like competitive gaming is concerned, it's never been an even playing field, especially on PC.
Yeah.
So I don't think this is anything out of the ordinary. It's, if you have the money, buy it. Sure, it gives you a competitive advantage, and that 11-year-old is still going to smash your face.
And then say terrible things about your mother. Yep.
You know, so, but I think the bigger deal is the fact that not enough people have PlayStation 5s. And I don't know if you've heard, but Sony has ramped up production on the PS5. They're going to have 4 times the stock of PS5s than they've had for the previous 2 Christmas seasons.
Well, good. That should have been like a major priority sooner. I realized with the chip shortage there was an issue, but it just feels like then if you're worried about having not enough product at launch, why didn't you delay?
There's a lot of factors that go into that, right? There was parts shortages, not least of which were just the chips that they used for the system, period. It's not, TSMC only has so much capacity, and when everybody's buying up your 7 nanometer capacity, you have to compete with everybody for that capacity. You know, they can only spit out, you know, so many silicon wafers a month.
Well, right. So my question then is, if Sony would have recognized this, wouldn't it have been more prudent to say, hey, well, we really want to sell these systems and we really want to have a good launch for the system. It would be better for us to hold off at least a year before we launch.
No, because Microsoft is going to launch anyway, for starters. Number 2, the reason why you're seeing them a lot more right now is, like I alluded to, the part shortage is starting to come to an end.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember if it was Lisa Su at AMD or somebody else at Intel or whatever the case may be. They said around this time is when the part shortage and things like that were actually going to start lifting. The other thing, 7 nanometer demand at TSMC is going down. And there's a good reason for that. Because AMD, NVIDIA was on Samsung before, so to a lesser degree NVIDIA, Apple, and a lot of your major players that was competing for that fabrication space have moved on to 6 and 5 nanometers. So when you don't have as many fish in the sea competing, it's easier to buy up that space. So I think that has a lot to do with it. There's not as much demand for 7 nanometer. TSMC has so much capacity, so Sony's buying up more capacity. And so I think after this Christmas season, we may finally be at a part where you can just walk in and buy one.
Well, I remember the last time we went to a Best Buy, we were able to see they actually had some on the shelves.
I was there today and they were all gone.
Of course they were. Why wouldn't they be, though? You know, people saw them and were like, oh, I have a chance.
And those are the Horizon bundles, too. Those were $550, I think.
Well, people are willing to do that. So
Yeah. It is what it is. But
yeah,
if you can't find it, you can't play on it, right? And
right.
You know, kind of like what EA is doing to some of their old games. If you're not aware of it,
it's another Sagoo.
I've gotten really good at these.
Yeah, stop it.
Don't be too jealous.
No, you just stole mine. I was about to do something. So go ahead.
Sorry, I had to do it.
You were just on a roll on your Sagoo.
Oh, I see what you did there. You're terrible. You're terrible.
But I'm also the fun one, so
you're like the bunny lady in My Hero Academia that said, "What's up, Doc?" Today?
Oh, don't bring that up. Don't stop. just go on with your story.
I knew that. I watched that before you saw it, and I knew what was coming, and the payoff was great. Anyway, EA is shutting down servers for loads of very good but older games. Electronic Arts has moved quickly to begin the process of shutting down the online servers for a bunch of old games. Some of them are absolute classics. First spotted by True Achievements, the list includes favorites like Mirror's Edge, 2010's NBA Jam reboot, and Command & Conquer Red Alert 3. So
here's my question. Wouldn't it just be simpler for them at that point, instead of saying we're just going to shut down the servers, to just open those games up to public servers and let people host their own lobbies?
People will start doing that anyway.
Well, right, but why would you we're going to go out of our way to ruin someone's day by letting them know this?
Then again, I just keep coming back to the idea of, if you're going to shut down servers, I realize this is going to take some work to do it this way, but why not enable peer-to-peer? I mean, we had this conversation before.
Yeah.
I mean,
some people just have terrible connection though, and I don't know how that. So there's gotta be a better way. Yeah.
A lot of people are going to lose access to being able to play other people on these old games, and so it all comes back to just game preservation in general.
And that's why I think the online only meta for gaming is a terrible idea. Online only? No, because we need to preserve these games. There was, I'm trying to remember now, there was some company that shut down their servers, and all the creators who made a bunch of games for it lost their work because it all had to be transferred over to their servers. And when they deleted the servers, they just wiped everything. They didn't even give the people back their original programs and stuff. It's like, well, you just killed a bunch of games. You're monsters.
At the end of the day, I hate to say it, but at the end of the day, especially with older games that used to only come on cartridges or discs or whatever the physical medium may be, eventually the only way you're going to be able to play those games is to pirate them. Just flat out.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the way life is right now.
It's the reality of the situation we live in.
Yeah.
I don't want to advocate for pirating, but there's plenty of Neo Geo games I want to play, and not every Neo Geo game is available. They've done a pretty good job of putting them out, but
see, I've been kind of a firm believer for a long time that if it's been at least 30 years, I mean, maybe even 20 to a degree, then if that game series, that game title, that game series, any likeness of it, any image of it, if it has not seen the light of day on a newer system or on the digital store of those newer systems, that should be free game. They should just be like, yeah, if you can find a copy of it, play it. If you can download an emulator of it, play it. Because the whole point is to play those games.
I mean, if it's cost prohibitive to own that game one way or the other, then, it's like, for instance, I own a copy of Panzer Dragoon Saga.
Yeah.
$1,000 I could sell it for, or more in some situations right now, easily. $1,000 for a game is not something your average Joe is going to be able to do. So, you know what? Even speaking as someone who owns that game, pirate it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too. If the game is so hard to obtain, especially if it's something out of your country, I don't know if have you ever played the game Bahamut Lagoon? No. Okay, so this was a tactics game by Square, where it was like lands of floating continents and whatnot, but your army that you controlled was a mix of humans and dragons. And it was very, very cool. But the only way we Westerners could play it is through a localized patch, and you had to play it on emulator. It's the only way.
If that's the only way, then that's the only way.
Exactly. I mean, and that's what it comes down to is, if we want these games to get known and recognized and loved and cherished and spread throughout the world, and they don't want to share their games, I hate to say that, but do what you got to do.
But what it ultimately comes back to,
but at the same time, don't I want to throw this in there. But at the same time, don't go and pirate Valkyrie Elysium because it just came out. That's not cool, bro. You need to give that company and that development team especially that development team, some money for their hard work. So,
that being said, what ultimately this all comes back to, with the closing of these servers and the fact that people won't be able to play their games against each other, because these games are old enough where they probably don't have online checks and things like that. I could be wrong, but either way, these are business decisions. Those companies, or the EAs paying for these servers, if they don't feel that they're going to have enough players to justify having those servers up, it's a business decision. And here's the rub, in my opinion. Games are a hobby for everybody playing them, but the companies that make them, is business.
It's almost like, I kind of want to say this, and I don't want to be like taken negatively or taken wrongly, but I feel like for a gaming corporation to truly thrive, the head of the corporation should not be the guy who went to school for marketing. It should be the guy who went to school for game design.
Well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Well, I'd have to think about it for a little bit.
Or at least say it like this. The guy who's focused on making the money should not be the one in charge of running the company about the games. They should be like the vice president, but not the president. Like, the person in charge should be a gamer, should love gaming, should love the community, and want to make it prosper. Then you have the person who's making the money, making all the money decisions. He has somebody over his head saying, "Nah, brah, we gotta do this. We gotta do this for the gamers. If we can afford to lose a couple dollars, do it." My opinion.
It's all cost benefit. That's the way they look at it, and that's why we are here where we're at.
Yeah. Well, speaking of cutting costs and being cost beneficial, or whatever other term you want to use, we got to talk about what happened to Disco Elysium and the development team there. That's my Zagoo. That was my... All right. So what happened was the lead writer, I know for sure, I'm trying to remember everything that happened. Lead writer and designer Robert Kurvitz, writer Helen Heinpier, I want to say that right, and lead of art and design Alexander Rostov were forced involuntarily out of the company. They basically replaced the development team of Disco Elysium for the company. So moving forward, if there was going to be a sequel for Disco Elysium, it's not going to have the same feel because it's a different team. And if I remember correctly, and I don't know if everything was fully disclosed on that one, there was a lot of PR spin and buzzwords, I think, used to get these people out and calm the masses. But it just looks bad. I don't know how you could spin that. I mean, unless you had like concrete proof that these people were like abusive to the fellow employees or something, I don't see this going well for you.
Well, we just don't know enough right now, right?
Well, like I said, there's a lot going on with it that I've been able to see. Let's see. I do have the article up in front of me. Let me just double skim because I want to make sure I'm saying things correctly.
But just in general, if you enjoy the work that these people do, then, and they love what they do, let's just assume we live in a world where they're going to make another game. Go buy their game.
Yeah, actually, that's the thing. If you know that these, at least these three people, I don't know how many more were released, but if you find out that they're working on something and you loved Disco Elysium, you should probably pick up what they got, because video game development is hard work.
It is. Just look at Mighty Number 9.
Yeah. Or, more current news, you could look at Bayonetta 3 and all the fallout from that.
Oh, it's not even out yet, though.
Yeah, but already the lead, I believe she was the lead actress.
Yeah.
Yes, Helena Taylor.
Yeah, I think that's her name. Yeah.
Yeah, she came out with a statement saying that she will no longer be the voice of Bayonetta because they only offered her $4,000 for the gig. From what I understand Jennifer Hale is going to be taking over. She's a very professional voice actress. She has actually, I even read her tweet myself on Twitter. She came out and basically said, like, look, I'm an advocate for fair pay in this industry, and I don't want to besmirch any of that, but going forward, I'm going to be the new voice of Bayonetta. That said, Helena Taylor has actually said, hey, I only got paid 4K for this, or offered 4K for this. Don't buy it, and don't ever buy the series again. And I don't think that's the right way to go about it. I agree. I don't know if she got paid enough or was offered enough. I did see somebody had mentioned on Twitter that they crunched the numbers, and she was getting paid effectively $250 an hour for her work. Because it was only supposed to be like 12 hours of voice acting, something like that.
That's not very many hours for a full game,
right? But I think they're only recording the voices for like 3 or 4 days, something like that. And so the person equated said, yeah, so she's basically making about 200. She was offered about $250 an hour.
That being said,
yeah,
there's several ways to look at this. Let's just take two that I've thought of. One,
right.
People will say, hey, this person made the character. Because of them, Bayonetta is who they are, right? The way that she talks and the way that she acts and the way that things go, it's they made. Would it be a different character if it wasn't her talking? And to them, I say, okay, I can see your argument. Maybe she deserves to have something of future royalties. That's a common thing in the Actors Guild, right? Future revenue that's derived.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's like if somebody records a song, they get future revenues of all of their song until
royalties.
Yeah. Until they die. Why shouldn't a voice actor? And so there's that side of the equation.
Yeah.
And I get that side. But let's take a look, a well-rounded look at this here. When it comes to things that are voice acted, compared to like traditional acting or even music, because those are the closest proxies I can think of, unless you can come up with something else.
No.
You're only providing the voice. The animation work, the production work, everything else that goes into making that character on screen that you see is created by a big team. Now, granted, that kind of stuff happens in movies too. The makeup artists, the people the designers and all that kind of stuff. There's all that. But as far as like the acting and the positions and the movement and things like that, sometimes that is done by the actors who are speaking them, but sometimes not as well. And so you're talking about a ton of people coming together and make a game. Should that person therefore have the right to all those future royalties the same way your typical band or actor does? It could be argued no.
Yeah, I would say no, but before I go further, I want to state that voice work is hard work. It is not like I'm just going to sit in front of the microphone and go blah, 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 and then I'm going to cash this big fat check. First off, no, they don't always get offered a ton of money to do the voice work. Secondly, that puts a huge strain on your vocal cords. Some people have actually had to retire because of all the damage they did to their vocal cords. And they were young. We're not talking like older people. They didn't have the proper training and they damaged themselves, so they had to retire. So it's not an easy line of work. At the same time, I want to advocate the fact that they are the face of the final product, just like the actors are of the movie. Like, you're not going to root for the cameraman in like Avengers. You're going to root for Chris Evans, and so they deem that this person is representing the final product so that their value is a little more. And so they get paid more.
Before I continue, let me say that I think that the voice actors should be paid more. And I think they're entitled to some sort of future compensation, considering they are going to be known synonymously, especially with popular characters going forward. Okay, so let me just put my opinion out there right now ahead of a devil's advocate role, which I will take on.
He has the horns.
Oh, thank you, sir.
You are the monster. What do you want?
I punt them. That doesn't mean I am the monster.
No, you're a punter who's a monster. So
no, I'm the monster punter. You know, the punt.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah.
But are they really the voice? Getting back to the matter at hand, are they really the voice? Or I'm sorry, the face. You said the face.
Yeah.
I would argue no.
Okay.
They're not the face, because the face in the case of a video game or other cartoon or some derivative of that, where all you're lending is your voice, you are not the face. You are the voice that goes with that face. It's not the same as, you know, your example of Chris Evans, where he is portraying Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you see him as Captain America, you associate his face with Captain America. That's not what's going on here. You know, it's not, you're lending a voice to a face that's already been made. And I don't know if you've seen Miss Taylor, but she looks nothing like Bayonetta.
Well, she has hair.
She does have hair. But
I can understand that. But like at this, you know, on the flip side, then you have situation like with the Mario movie, where people are wondering what the heck happened there, and there are actually people demanding that Charles Martinet be allowed to go into the studio and re-record all the lines for the Mario character.
See, that's different though. That's different than this situation.
How?
Because I can't remember the guy. Chris Pratt. We were just talking about Chris Evans. I almost used his name. Chris Pratt is not the voice they've heard for 20 to 30 years as Mario. So when they hear somebody else's voice playing Mario, of course people are going to have that kind of reaction.
Well, she's been playing the voice of Bayonetta for the past 2 games.
Sure. So. Yes. But we're also talking about a game, at least as the time of this recording, is not out yet. So that kind of criticism has not been levied yet, in the same way that the Mario movie has.
True. Okay, fair.
So when you hear, "It's me, Mario," and it's not whoever's guy.
Charles Martinet.
Instead
you hear, "It's a me, Mario."
It's a me, Mario. I've come for you.
My only issue is the fact that it took him forever to remember the word Koopas.
Oh, that's a different situation.
Yeah, we're not going to get into that. Anyways.
But, you know, so the fact that, I tell you what, if the original voice actor for Mario was no longer with us, it's a nice way of saying he's still alive, not dead.
He went on to another castle.
Oh, that's what he's going to do.
Yeah. See, I'm claiming that copyright. I'm gonna hit every single news article that ever uses that.
Well, I mean, we can. But what would Shigeru Miyamoto do? Would he be fertilizer for his lawn, aka Pikmin, or something like that?
No, he would be. That's a good question. What would Miyamoto be?
Anyway, not to sidetrack the conversation.
Yeah, no. Okay, yeah, sorry. But anyways, so getting back to the whole point, it's a icky situation.
Yeah,
voice actors should be compensated properly for their work.
I agree.
But that doesn't mean that you need to boycott Bayonetta 3, because why would you want to out so many people who are working on a project, who are working hard on a project, because one person had, you'll have to forgive me, had an ego crisis.
That could be part of it. But then
again, that's what it feels like. That's honestly what it feels like.
I'm not saying I think what she's saying has merit. There's things there.
Right. But I agree with that. But at the same time, it's also more like, well, I'm not doing the role, so I'm going to tank this product. No, you declined the offer, so they went with someone else.
4,000 isn't very much. I agree with her on that much at least. But we'll see how the game does when it comes out.
True. I will be honest though, like, Chris, I'm coming at it from a completely different perspective. I'm coming from the perspective of a poor person. If you offered me $4,000 for like 3 or 4 days of work, I'm working.
Well, I can say this much, that in the grand scheme of things, compared to other people of somewhat similar work, they are paid. They are dramatically underpaid, and it's not the first time.
Absolutely.
And let's just say that, even video gaming in general has a history of not paying people enough or giving people credit when credit's due.
They're overworked and underpaid.
Yeah, at the start of video games, so to speak, with
in the time before video games,
once upon a time in the 70s, there was a company that...
It was the 60s, wasn't it?
Well, the time period I'm going... Stop! You're killing my mood!
I'm killing your vibe. There
was a company that used 3 rainbow-colored lines to make things. Okay, it was a dumb logo, but
yeah, that was a...
Yeah, I mean,
that was also a dumb story. Like,
but my point is that Atari Once Upon a Time did not even give credit to people who made the video game. There was no credits to video game.
Yeah, like the whole thing with Adventure where the guy had to put his name, like, I made this game. He had put it as an Easter egg.
Yeah, because they didn't want people being poached, basically.
Yeah.
So,
which was really stupid.
Yeah, and there was no way to prove that you did anything when you left Atari, so you felt more trapped. And, the humble beginnings as they are, before they become big evil companies, Activision started out as a group of ex-Atari programmers who left Atari and started Activision and put out some of the greatest games of that era. Pitfall, for instance.
Yeah.
Which, the platformer, as we know it today, did start before Mario. He's just the one who kind of made it really popular. There was Pitfall.
Yep. Well, fun fact, did you know that Donkey Kong was not supposed to even be a thing?
It was supposed to be Popeye.
Yes. Mario was supposed to be Popeye. Pauline was supposed to be Olive Oil, and Bluto was supposed to be taking over for Donkey Kong, chucking barrels. But they couldn't get the rights to the cartoon. They didn't want to use their likeness on it. So then they made up Jumpman. And
that was the original name of Mario.
So think about that when you go watch the Mario movie. You could be watching a 3D Popeye movie. You ingrates. Sorry.
Maybe it'd be spinach everywhere instead of mushrooms.
Da 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 da. Yeah.
All I'm gonna say is, if you watch that trailer in other languages, it sounds like Toad's on like crack or something. How fast he has to use to get their lines out. I was watching, I was like, holy cow, they sound like they've just shot up a bunch of speed or something. Just, man, snorted a few lines or something.
But Jack Black is going to dominate that movie. I don't know if anyone else believes that. I believe that's kind of the consensus, but he's going to dominate that movie.
When he was the Bowser part of that was really good.
Oh, it was so funny and so on point. So good. So, well, we've gone a long time. Do you have any other stories?
I don't have anything else.
Cool. Well, then we should probably not waste any more time for these nice, kind folks who are going to like, subscribe, and support us in future endeavors.
We should probably put that closer to the beginning.
Maybe. Yeah, probably. Well, if you got anything you want to say about the stories we've talked about today, or got to voice your opinion about anything, let us know in the comments down below. We do read them and we do respond when we can. But we're gonna get out of here. It's getting very close to food time, and I am quite hungry. So, with that said, got to gather myself. I want to get this done in one take. Just one take this time. Can I do it? Can I do it? Can I get this done in one take? We'll find out. Thank you so very much for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment. If you want more from us, you can find Monster at Monster_Punter on Twitter. And you can find me over at Matt Finish on YouTube. And I'm also at Matt Finish Games on Twitter if you want to talk to me there. With that, have yourselves a fantastic day, and we'll see you in the next one.
Take care.
Later.